Hi Krista, today was Black Friday, which marks the beginning of the Festivus season, which means it's never too early to start airing grievances. So here is a list of things that I am not fucking grateful for. Welcome to Sam's list of things that can fuck right off this holiday season. Number 1, complaining about how young women talk these days. This complaint goes literally all the way back. People have been complaining in various ways about the degradation of English since before modern English was a thing. The point is that in the 20th century, this almost always takes the form of people complaining about how young girls talk. Because young girls tend to be at the forefront of language change, and when you're not participating in language change, it sounds like degradation, because things are different than they were before, and that must be bad. Depending on the age of the person you're talking to and how out of touch they are with your mass culture, you could hear all sorts of different ways in which young women are ruining the language. For example, I often hear older people complaining about new quotatives. They're all, why do you use that word to convey that you're reporting what someone else is saying? And I'm like, none of your damn business. These quotatives are really useful. They do something we couldn't do before in English. They enable us to report what someone has said without conveying that we're certain they used those exact words. People more in touch with recent pop culture might complain about young girls emulating Kesha and Kim Kardashian and using the so-called vocal fry or creaky voice, where you constrict your vocal cords and bring your voice down. This is a vocal pattern that I hear kind of a lot, and it turns out it's been a common feature for younger folks in the Pacific Northwest for well over 30 years. If you don't believe me, you can watch any interview with Kurt Cobain and listen to him creak his voice. But for some reason, when he does it, it's different. I don't just mean that Kim Kardashian and Kurt Cobain sound different, despite using a similar vocal pattern. I mean they're interpreted differently. Time and again, all these qualms about young women's speech boil down to a belief that young women are stupid. They are described as making young women sound stupid, or used as evidence of their stupidity. And I think that is born out of misogyny. It takes genuine intelligence to change language and to adapt to new language patterns, so we should reject misogyny and celebrate young women's linguistic ingenuity. And that's why criticizing young women's speech patterns can fuck right off. Number 2, ignoring what someone has to say because they're speaking in a different dialect. One of the most amazing things about the internet, if not the most amazing thing about the internet, is that there are billions of people that can tell their stories to a mass audience. This is an amazing time to be alive. Those people don't have to deal with editors, they don't have to deal with style guides, they can just tell their truths to the world as soon as they happen to them, in real time. That is amazing. But what they produce might have errors. It might have grammar errors, spelling errors, even factual errors. The thing that's important is that they're able to tell their stories. Likewise, their stories might be told in dialects of English that you're not familiar with. There's a very particular way we're taught to speak and read English in America, and that doesn't reflect the way that most people speak it. For example, African American vernacular English is the dialect of English that many of the tweets and blog posts and information that we're getting out of Ferguson, Missouri is communicated in. People right now on the internet are telling their stories of struggle and oppression, of real human tragedy, of suffering and loss. They are grappling with grief and anger and rage. And if you're focusing on their word use and punctuation, you are being inhumane. No, I'll go further. You're being a huge asshole. But I want you to be a more compassionate human being, and I believe fundamentally that you have the capacity to do so. So I need you to practice compassion. See their words with feeling. And if you're unwilling to do that, and still feel a need to correct other people's language, I want to encourage you to fuck right off. Turns out I only have time for 2 of the 4 items on my list, but this is the beginning of the Festivus season, and I will have time to air more grievances later. Krista, I will see you on Monday, and I hope you air grievances then, too.